With quality management approaches to date, they seem to divide into a couple of areas. One was the build and fix approach. Now this was the first one where you simply built it and then you tested, is it what I expected to be? And if it wasn't, you rejected it. This was embedded in Ford's production line. If you're looking back to the origins of production output, he used gauges to gauge whether a produced part was of the correct dimensions. They had go, no-go gauges. So if you produced a gearbox spline, for example, you would try to feed it through a go gauge, so it wasn't bigger than it should be. And then you tried to feed it through a no-go gauge. If it already fit in the no-go gauge, it was too small. So between those two limits was what enabled very quick checks of the quality of something. Now, production line goes back, the origins of the production line was actually in the meat processing industry. Now, that is where you might, you butcher the beast, and you have a look at the cuts of meat that you've produced, and if they are not of the expected quality, well, you reject them. The inspect and test approach does seem to suit primary produce like mining or farming, that kind of thing, where you have not that much control over the raw ingredients, the raw materials. And either the raw materials are of adequate quality or they're not, and you reject that which is not. A different approach is the process-based approach, which in its extensive form was popularized by W. Edwards Deming, where he pointed out that there were a lot of things in the process that contributed to the quality of the output. Now, he did more than that, but I don't want to go into the whole history of Edwards Deming at the moment and the whole theory of process-based quality. But sufficient to say that there is a process, and there are a whole lot of attributes and things that contribute to that process, and trying to get those right or to support the expected outcomes is the process-based approach. Now, this approach is suited to manufacturing or any other endeavor that is highly repetitious, because it gives you the opportunity to learn as you repeat. Now, unfortunately, with these approaches, these don't seem to suit leading edge problems, innovation, variation. If you've got something that has, by its own nature, a great deal of variation, then a process-based approach is not going to serve you that well. It's better than nothing, and it's better than a whole lot of other things we have, but it really has a difficult time coping with the necessary variation, and certainly it has a problem with innovation. I mean, the whole point about innovation is you're doing something different. So if you try to apply a process-based approach that's basically repetitious to something of innovation, you're going to do the wrong things too frequently. Agile development in software development, and Agile does have its manifestations in other places, pretty much usually called concurrent engineering. Now, this is one attempt to overcome these problems of the rigidity of a process-based approach. It tries to address, among other things, in software development, try to address how do we actually make progress when we have an imperfect understanding of what it is we're trying to do. And you sort of think, well, why don't you just sit down and specify it properly? Well, that gets to be very difficult when you're dealing with something that is going to be new, like, for example, a new aircraft, a new payment system, a new electronic health system, or a new curriculum information system. You don't really know all of the problems you're going to have to face until you actually start working on them. Now, this kind of thing has plagued software development ever since its inception. The Agile approach allows you to do a bit have a look and see what problems you're facing next, and then decide what you're going to do next. But that's great. Concurrent improvement in, concurrent development in engineering and concurrent development in software does try to improve productivity and time to market, and that's, that can be managed.